Sat there and listened to the majority leader in the United States Senate describe to me that he's not going to talk until we surrender. And then this morning, I get the Wall Street Journal out, and it says, well, we don't care how long this lasts because we're winning. Now, this isn't some damn game. The American people don't want their government shut down, and neither do I. All we're asking for is to sit down and have a discussion and to bring fairness, reopen the government, and bring fairness to the American people under Obamacare.
There's no winning when families don't have certainty about whether they're going to get paid or not. I've got staff in the White House. There's staff all across the country in rural areas who are working for the Agricultural Department, who are working for Veterans Affairs, who are on their job. Despite the fact that they're not getting paid, nobody's winning. And that's the point. We should get this over with as soon as possible. If Speaker Boehner will simply allow that vote to take place, we can end this shutdown.
What was interesting is that this was the first mistake made by the administration, the statement that got out. And of course, it's the first truth spoken by the administration about it since the shutdown began, which is a classic Kinsley gaffe, that a gaffe in Washington is when you accidentally speak the truth. They are winning. Obama was at his lowest point, humiliated abroad. He couldn't even get his appointments through among Democrats at home. His ratings were low, and this was his opportunity to recover, to appear as a man of the people, out for an easeful lunch with Joe Biden. But there is, and you saw how defensive the speaker was. He said, all we're asking for is for us to chat, to bring fairness to the American people under Obamacare. Meaning he's conceded that the whole effort to repeal it is dead. He accepts it. He's just looking for, a tweak here and there. But there's a danger here for the president. He's approaching the peak of the sine curve. He benefits because of the shutdown. But every day that we approach the debt limit, which would be fatal for the president, the winning part of this diminishes, and he is now headed over the curve, and as we approach the debt limit, he's going to go right down in the valley, and I think he will absolutely have to negotiate.
We are approaching the point where something has to change in this dynamic day to day, and it doesn't appear that there's any movement.
Well, that's because the debt ceiling is still, 11, 12 days away. If we didn't have a debt ceiling overhanging us, there'd be no movement at all. The president would stay exactly where he is, Harry Reid stay where they are, and they would wait for the cave. What they want here is not just a clean CR, as if cleanliness is next to godliness in this, and in and of itself it's a wonderful thing. What they want is to humiliate the Republicans and to cause them to walk back and concede everything. But the presence of the debt ceiling is what is the saving grace from the GOP point of view. Obama can't allow it. So the more we move away from the closing of the government, it continues, but it'll have less effect. It's very ominous for the president, the approach, and I suspect that if the shutdown continues into the end of next week, you're going to see a movement from the Democrats, because that will be a catastrophe for them politically, apart from what it's going to do to the country.
I've said I am happy to have negotiations with the Republicans and Speaker Boehner on a whole range of issues. But we can't do it with a gun held to the head of the American people. So reopen the government, make sure we're paying our bills.
All I'm asking for is let's sit down like the American people would expect us and talk to one another about getting the government open and dealing with the significant problems that we face.
Next year, he's apt to lose the Senate, and his presidency will be neutered. So this is a very high-stakes, long-headed plan on the part of the president.
John?
And in that sense, his second term is the opposite of the normal second term. Normal second term, a president is reelected. He can ignore the polls to a large extent. And in the first 2 years, he's got a mandate, a bit of a wind at his back, and he legislates, he tries to enact his agenda. He understands that he's going to lose a lot of seats in the last midterm, and the last 2 years will be lame duck. That's the history over the last 50, 100 years. Obama understood that with the GOP in control of the House, he wasn't going to enact anything in years 5 and 6. So he isn't interested in any of that. He doesn't want actual results. What he wants is to win a victory, the way he did in the fiscal cliff on January 1, which was all about humiliating the Republicans and splitting them. Because if he could split them in the House, he would neuter them, he would have control, and he'd be able to win the midterm. His whole idea is a political idea, which is, again, unusual in the second term, because he needs to recover the House if he's going to have his agenda enacted. All he's got now is Obamacare. It's a big deal, but it's only a single element. He wants a lot of other stuff, and he can only achieve it with a political victory. So nothing he says about substance now matters. It's all about the game and winning the game.
After Standard & Poor's lowered our credit rating, the cost of borrowing by the U.S. government declined 40%. So it depends on what the consequences are.
This is probably a first, but I disagree. I think what's going to happen as we approach
It may
the
not
debt
be the
ceiling-
last, by the way.
Well, yeah, this is, there'll be several rounds involved. This is round one. I'm looking for only a cut right now. I'm not looking for more than. As we approach the debt ceiling, I think the markets are going to speak. I think the markets are a little bit more nervous now after the shutdown. If it persists it'll be 17 days later. And I think we may get a reaction. It may not be the way the market reacted when the bailout was rejected by the House, and I think the market fell 800 points, like in an hour, and the House returned and it approved. When the market speaks, as opposed to Obama speaking, the politicians will respond. I think that will probably happen as we approach, and the president at that point is going to have to concede. But right now, he wants Boehner's shirt, trousers, and sword. He wants to hear Boehner in the well of the House recite, "One nation under Obamacare, indivisible, and liberty for all," or whatever. I screwed that up. But he wants them to make the concession on Obamacare, and then he'll come back and make a concession on deficits.
Quick rebuttal.
The markets, Charles and I actually agree that markets are real. The Kabuki Theater in Washington isn't. Let's hear from reality.
This has been a Sunfish production.